Well, hello, this is Dave Mulvaney, and today we're gonna talk a little bit about LED lights and are they truly a part of your future? You know, it's a question that a lot of people have been asking me, and I think it's a question a lot of people really have on their mind right now. So let's get right into it. You know, it's about 125 years ago, a little over that Thomas Edison uh, ran electricity through a resistor, and that resistor would glow. And when you encase that resistor in glass, not only did it glow hot, but it would put out light. And we called that the incandescent light bulb. Now, granted, a lot of the energy going into that bulb was for creation of heat, not light. And that's why the light bulb forever will be changed by LEDs. They'll be no longer be made of glass. They'll be cool to the touch after they're on, and on for periods of time. They'll still be cool. They won't have any hazardous materials in them. They won't need to be replaced. They won't waste energy. So let's look at a brief history of lighting. Like I said, over 125 years ago, the first marketable incandescent light bulb came onto the scene. Then fluorescent lights in the 1930s and metal halides in the 1960s. And in the early 80s, we had the T12 4-foot fluorescent and the 8-foot fluorescent. Then, as we moved later in the 80s, the T8, the smaller fluorescent bulb. It was a breakthrough because it used 8 to 10 watts less energy, and it was just a massive development. Huge market took off based upon one bulb in the commercial environment. But in the 1990s, the Chinese pioneered the LED industry, and they really, it's one of the only industries that you can point to and say the Chinese developed and created the industry. There's their engineering, it's their research and development. It's very rare that you can't say that about any other industries. Normally it was another country and their engineers designing and creating something, and then they go to China and have it mass produced. In 2000, Cree really began to accelerate LED chip technology and get more brightness out of the chip. And it was really in about 2010 and 2011 when the first marketable, meaning they had a UL or an ETL listing, meaning they met the National Electric Code. So really about 2010 and 2011 when the first LEDs came into the United States, marketable, mind you. So the task at hand, in commercial businesses, lighting and HVAC makes up 90% of the energy that's consumed for almost every business out there, and it's their two largest electrical costs as well. But the thing about it is, are LED lights in your future? If you're in business, my answer would be yes, because you've got the burn hours to justify the expense, and everybody's looking for ways to improve their bottom line. Well, let's consider what the market is saying about it. The Department of Energy estimates that there's 10 billion lamps operating in the United States, and that 80% of them are going to convert to LED by 2025, generating trillions of dollars of business. Are LEDs in your future? If you're in business, they are. So the other side of the business was that it was because of we'll call it the forced death of the incandescent light bulb. Our government, in their infinite wisdom, decided that, hey, we're gonna not outlaw it, but we're gonna make the 100-watt incandescent light bulb in 2012. We're gonna label that for special use. What does that mean? That means the bulb that you used to pay 90 cents for, you're not gonna pay $6 for, because they decided to call it special use. What is special use? Well, you can't hatch chickens under an LED light or a fluorescent bulb if they don't put out the heat, they don't put out the warmth. You use incandescent light bulbs to do that. You can't put a LED or a fluorescent bulb inside of your oven. The power supply will melt. The housing will melt. So that's what incandescent light bulbs are for. They did the same with the 75 watt. They labeled that for special use, and they were going to do the same with the 60 watt and the 40 watt, but they put that on hold. So what are the advantages of LED? Ultimately, they convert energy to light substantially better than any other light source. They don't waste energy as heat. They waste substantially less than any other light source. It's just that simple, and it's about 10 to 1, almost 10 to 1. What are some more advantages? LED lights don't change colors when they're dim. You can turn them on and off as much as you want. They come right on, so there's no delay like the Super Bowl we had a couple years ago where the lights flickered and the the lights were out for 30 minutes. You don't have that problem with LED lights. They're super durable. They're not easily damaged or breakable. You can get them in different colors. They have very, very low maintenance, and you can focus the light where you want. And a big one is they don't contain mercury. Certainly fluorescents are bad for the environment. Incandescents put out heat, but there's tremendous advantages to LEDs. So are they in your future? I believe so, especially if you're in business. So Forbes 2010 wrote an article about LEDs becoming the world's light source because they looked at energy use worldwide and they said, look, if everybody converted to LED, we could take the world's electricity use from 20% from lighting, we can take it down to 4%. Imagine the difference that would make worldwide. But remember the wet film industry when we used to put film in cameras? Well, then digital photography took place. A lot of those companies who are in the wet film industry are no longer there. They lost market share. Well, the same thing is going on right now with the incumbents in traditional lighting. And who's an incumbent? If you've bought the product at the store, a light bulb of any kind, and whoever's name on it, they're an incumbent. Well, see, the reality is they have to be able to change, and they're not wanting to change because they've made billions and billions of dollars off of the fact that your lights are a commodity. They go out, they get replaced. LEDs are not that way. So the companies, the smaller alternate up and coming LED companies, they can invest in LED technology that's going to last you 10, 15, even 20 years. And the flip side of that is for the incumbents who have thousands, tens of thousands, over 50,000 employees in their lighting divisions. If they make an LED that's going to last you 10 to 15 years, it's not good for them. It's not good for their shareholders. So they're not going to do that. So if LEDs are in your future, you want to make sure you choose a company who's going to manufacture a high quality lamp that's going to last you many years to come. You know, the thing about LEDs, you can put motion sensors on them, dimming capabilities, color adaptation. They have so many different advantages over any other type of lighting. But the thing is, with the big traditional incumbents, they can't innovate rapidly. Smaller startups, and I say smaller, I'm talking companies less than $100 million. They can break the rules. They can change quickly and innovate, and they can do it in such a short period of time. There's tremendous advantages to up and coming LED companies over the traditional incumbents. So what's it take for an up-and-coming company to be successful? They've got to have a global supply chain. You're going to want to deal with somebody who has that in place. They do the research in the U.S., but they diversify their manufacturing on the other side of the pond, as it's referred to. So you end up with a company that's not investing all of its capital into production costs. They're investing it in R&D and developing high quality LED lights. So a tremendous impact on the bottom line. So the non-incumbents can provide you with a lamp and the quality of the lamp at a much more competitive price. You know, it was just a few years ago when a 4-foot LED light would cost about $115. Now they're in the $20 range. So are LEDs in your future? Absolutely. Again, if you're in business, they are, because now they'll pay for themselves in a short period of time. The payback in the residential market now is starting to make sense. Here we are in 2016, and the numbers really make sense. But I'm going to tell you about something that a lot of companies don't want to talk about. A lot of people don't want to talk about. It's LED's dirty little secret. And it all boils down to heat buildup in the power supply. See, to get electricity out of the chip, the LED chip, which is what glows when you put electricity through it, is what puts out the light. If you overdrive that chip with electricity, it glows. But because you're overdriving it, you're putting more electricity than it's designed to operate with, putting more through it, it's putting out a brighter beam of light. Well, that heat buildup can be a problem. Companies who manage the heat are going to have the longest lasting LEDs on the market. So they come out with a test called L70, and a lot of people kind of know what it is, but they don't really know what it means. L70 is a 6,000 hour test that determines when that LED is putting out 70% of its original light, how many hours have gone by. That's what the L70 rating of the chip is. But what's important to understand is, sure, you have an L70 of 50,000 hours or an L70 of 100,000 hours, but how well is your power supply made? The power supply is like a ballast. It's what puts electricity to those chips. If that power supply overheats in 8 years, I don't care if it says it's got a 50,000 hour life. You've got a bad power supply. You need a replacement, and that's going to cost you money. So L70 is not just about the chips. You need a company that's designing their power supply to last you 12, 15, 20 years. So, there's a lot of false advertising. Initially, that was basically saying that Chinese LEDs were bad. Well, the reality is they were the original developers. They went through all the struggle, all the pioneering of the industry, and some of absolutely the best LEDs in the world are coming out of China. But so are the worst. Like anything else, there's always good and bad in any market, and that's why I've gone through the time, because if LEDs are in your future, you need to know about these things. There's even some of the incumbents have issues with those power supplies. And when you cut cost in the power supply or you cut cost in the LED chip itself, those are the two key critical items to provide a high quality product. Those are areas you don't want to cut cost. We call it the race to the bottom, trying to turn LEDs into a commodity, when in reality, they don't need to be. You can make an investment in LEDs in your business, and they're going to last you 10, 15, or 20 years. Don't get involved in the race to the bottom. LEDs are certainly a part of your future. If you're in business, you're going to be considering LEDs in the near future, and you want to go to a company that has your best interest in mind. Thank you.